What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Topic of discussion, Diddy. So his trial started today, a little bit of a delay, but they were able to get the jury in before 12. So let's listen to what the reporter from Fox 5 had to say, and we'll go ahead and get into it.
That's right. And despite having to choose the jury this morning, things are moving along pretty quickly. A jury of 12 people has been seated with 6 alternates, and that consists of 8 men and 4 women. And opening statements have already concluded before noon Eastern time. The court took a break for lunch, and now they may be very much rolling into their very first witness testimony. Now, as for the prosecution, during its opening statements, they told the jurors that they can expect to hear during the course of this trial about 20 years of alleged crimes that Sean Diddy Combs committed and his inner circle who enabled him. Arriving at the courthouse this morning were Diddy's children, his sons and his twin daughters. They left from a black van holding hands. Depending how far witness testimony gets today, they could hear in detail the graphic allegations their father is accused of. The prosecution mentioned kidnapping, arson, drugs, and sex crimes. They also mentioned that Diddy forced ex-girlfriend and R&B singer Cassie Ventura to have sex with male escorts while he watched and filmed and kept the recordings as blackmail. He's also accused of forcing other women to participate in occasions referred to as freak-offs, days-long drug-fueled sex orgies that lasted days. The jury will also see video of these sexual encounters. The defense told jurors it will be hard to watch, but will show that the encounters were consensual. And the defense has said they will admit to domestic violence on Diddy's part, but they will argue that there was mutual violence on both sides. But remember, domestic violence is not a charge in this case, in this trial. He's facing racketeering and also sex trafficking charges, among 3 other charges. Now, witness testimony, they just came back from lunch. Witness testimony could be going on right now as we speak. We're live outside federal court in Lower Manhattan. Michelle Ross, back.
Now, as you guys heard, the prosecution is planning on convincing or attempting to convince the jury that this has been an ongoing thing with Diddy for the past 20 years. They even mentioned who witness 1 is going to be. Cassie Ventura. Cassie. You guys know who I'm talking about. Casey, his ex, the one that started the reason why this all started. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how I'm assuming that Diddy's lawyers haven't had their opening statement yet, so let's go ahead and hear what the lawyer. So Fox 5 went ahead and interviewed a lawyer as far as what he feels like the strategy is going to be for Diddy's defense team. So let's go ahead and hear that for a second, and we'll go ahead and comment.
From Fox, Ben Taylor, criminal defense attorney. Thanks so much for joining us, Ben. It's been quite some time since we talked, but I'm so glad that you are here with us now. And Ben, so first off, we are seeing really this highly charged, in-demand trial finally get going. And right now, we are waiting for that first witness to be on the stand.
Witness will take the stand for the prosecution, and the prosecution is going to definitely try to make Sean Combs look very bad throughout this trial, and trying to have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, because it's a criminal case, whether or not he did, commit this sex trafficking and racketeering. So this is going to be an interesting trial to see the witnesses, what they say. And
sorry, I just had to say this before we go into the rest of the interview. That is not on my end. The drag, that is on their end, and I'm not sure if this lawyer is, well, I've got some I'm not a judgmental person, but I'm judging this lawyer. So let's go ahead and hear the rest of the interview.
These witnesses have a motive to lie because of money, or whether or not the prosecution can actually prove that he did do sex trafficking and racketeering.
And tell me, for the defense here, as they are going to have to paint Diddy and really to talk to the jury, as this is an individual, of course, that has a lot of money, has been in the entertainment business for decades, but has a very different life than the regular person. And how are they going to really paint that picture of Diddy where he has this different life, but at the end of the day, maybe isn't as bad as what the prosecution is saying.
The defense attorney is trying to do that right now, Mike, in opening statements, trying to say, yes, there might be some bad things about him. Yes, you might see him on video assaulting his girlfriend. However, he didn't do the sex trafficking. He wasn't involved in racketeering. And that's what they're going to try to prove, try to humble him, try to make him seem like a regular person. Because, yes, a lot of jurors are going to say, this is a rich guy. Is he going to try to just get away with it? He's going to buy his way out of this. Or is he a normal person? Is he actually the victim here? And are people trying to accuse him to try to get his money? So as a defense attorney, you definitely have to make your client look relatable, look presentable, and make him look like a regular person. So that way jurors don't have these preconceived notions or stereotypes, because yes, he is a famous person and he is in the public eye.
And I also want to talk about this, Ben, because we are waiting for Cassie Ventura to be on the stand. That is one of the prosecution's star witnesses, and of course is the one that is in that hotel security footage there. But she is very much pregnant right now. How will this play a role in how the jurors perceive her versus if she wasn't pregnant?
Yes, of course. I mean, jurors definitely have, they're normal people like you and I, and they have, they're sympathetic to different people's situations. And her being pregnant, they may feel that, she's telling the truth or sympathetic towards her. And that could play a big role because people see that. The jurors will see that. However, if she's, muffling over her words and she's inconsistent, and if she's caught up doing a lie, no matter if she's pregnant or not pregnant. It doesn't matter if she's pregnant or not pregnant. If she's caught lying on the stand, the jurors will definitely punish her for that and favor towards Sean Combs if that happens. So yes, you're right. Pregnancy, the way witnesses look are huge, but we'll see, how she does on the stand, whether or not they believe her or not.
And what are attorneys telling Diddy, giving the advice for when he is just sitting there at the desk there with his defense team? What are the ways that a defendant should look like during a trial? And of course, this one that is going to be so long, about 8 to 9 weeks. So what are some tips that they probably gave Diddy as these opening statements? And then, of course, the trial does really take off.
Yes, as a defense attorney, you always tell your client to remain calm. No matter what good evidence comes out or bad evidence against you, you don't want to seem frustrated. You don't want to seem like you're shocked by something, because the jurors are looking at you at all times. There's at least one juror who will be on, their eyes will be on Sean Combs at all times. Of course, they're listening to the witnesses, but they're looking at him to see how does he react. Does he react angrily? Does he smile? Does he laugh? I mean, they're judging him because he's on trial. So the nonverbal cues are huge for jurors. Because doing trials, a lot of trials, I've had jurors after the trial, I talk to them and they'll say, yes, I saw your client smile. I saw your client look very serious. And that actually helped your client. So the way he presents in court each and every day, the jurors are looking at him and they'll be judging him by the way he looks and what he does.
And Ben, another thing I want to discuss here, because it can't be overlooked, where the prosecution not really coming out of the gate too strong. And I mean, because one of their witnesses, one of their victims that was going to be on the stand, MIA, and definitely that they have been trying to reach, but have not been able to come in contact with that person. Tell me, how does a defense team really try to jump on the fact that they are going to be one witness short here along the way?
Yes, when you lose a witness in the middle of trial, and that's very normal because jurors and even witnesses disappear in the middle of a case. So when that happens, that does stink, but maybe you have to put Sean Combs on the stand. I mean, that's going to be interesting whether or not he's going to testify, because you just have to, improvise, just like in a sports game. If you fumble the ball, you got to pick it up and keep running. So they're going to have to pick up the ball and keep running here. And even if they lost a key witness, they're going to have to try to figure out what can they do to still win the case. At the end of the day, you're trying to win the case. And remember, you need most of the jurors to say guilty for the prosecution to win. So the defense gets 1 or 2 jurors that are hung.
Okay. There's a lot to unpack there. But very interesting. Very, very interesting. I judge this lawyer, but he made a lot of really good points there. Okay, so the first thing that he said, the defense's strategy is going to be to try to make Diddy, who is a polarizing figure, obviously we're all covering this case, to make him more personable. Relatable, I believe, is the word that they use, but I feel like personable. Make him more personable to these jurors, because obviously people know who he is, but if they can make him human, you know, that's a plus for them. 2, Cassie Ventura, pregnant. Wow, not gonna lie, I did not know that. They didn't really make a big deal out of it, the lawyer did, but in my opinion, I feel like this is huge. I feel like this is huge. The perception that's gonna give when she's on the stand, man, I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be hard for me, at least personally. At least this is how I feel. I feel like people are gonna be like, she's not lying. She's being she's pregnant, no matter what, no matter how. And I feel like they said that if they catch her up on the stand, it's not gonna look good for him. I'm gonna go ahead and say bullshit on that. I feel like if they try to make her look bad, that could look bad on them. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? I feel like that's not the image that they're trying to portray. I feel like it can backfire. You know, I really do feel like that could potentially backfire. So that is going to be very interesting to see. Now, the last point. Man, I wish I was a lawyer. And you know what? When I was, unfortunately, if anybody knows my story, I have been incarcerated. But when I was incarcerated, I'm what you would call a chain gang lawyer. So people would come to me to write paperwork, read paperwork. I love it. I'm so fascinated. I've always wanted to be a lawyer, but unfortunately, the choices that I made in life, I was on the other side. You know, I had to hire lawyers instead of become one. But very interesting, very interesting. The intricacies of trial, what he said there, how the perception. He said something that I never thought about. At least one juror is going to be having his eyes on Diddy the whole time, and they're looking to see how he reacts. You know, if he's responsive or whatever is going on, they want to see what's going on, and every little thing that he does is going to be judged, essentially. And it's not even the court of public opinion, it's the peers, the judge of his peers, the people that matters for him to win or beat this case. Now, I believe he's got Brian Steele, so man, I'm very big fan of Brian Steele. Huge fan here, based in Atlanta, Young Thug trial. I feel like with this guy and those big power lawyers that he's got in New York, he's got a good chance. But this federal prosecution in Southern District of New York, man, they're tough. They are tough. They are tough. So anyways, guys, just a few thoughts on the Diddy trial, what's going on. Let me know what you guys think. Like I said, if you made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, tap in, all that, like I always say. Check out the videos. Until next time, it's the kid.